Well, Your Eminences, Your Excellencies, and distinguished guests, and to you, President Sharona, thank you so much, and thanks to the Fondazione for the invitation to join you here today. It is a genuine privilege to be part of the conversation that this foundation has been shaping with consistency and with courage for more than 30 years. And on a personal note, I'm truly honoured to be part of your dialogue. As many speakers have already acknowledged, at the start of this week, our Pope Leo, issued his first encyclical. Signed 135 years after Rerum Novarum, it sends us a very clear signal that the disruptions reshaping work, dignity, technology, and power that are happening today are as consequential and as important as those of the Industrial Revolution. Then the encyclical defended the dignity of workers after the upheaval of the Industrial Revolution. And today, Magnifica Humanitas asks a related question for us, for our own age. In a world shaped by algorithms, by artificial intelligence, how do we ensure a sense of digital progress that serves human dignity, that does not reduce people to data, to productivity, or to control? So, across more than a century of Catholic social teaching, one consistent principle has emerged: that economic and technological progress becomes meaningful when it serves human dignity and the common good. But this is not only a moral framework. Increasingly, it is a very important development framework. And this is because the defining challenges of our time, of fragility, of climate change, of pandemics, of death, of migration, and now artificial intelligence, none of these recognize national borders. They cannot be solved by countries acting alone, nor by institutions that retreat into narrower definitions of a national interest. So, the answer cannot be less cooperation. It has to be better cooperation. Cooperation that is more legitimate, more effective, but also grounded in the lives of those we serve, of ordinary people. And in my work, I spend a lot of time with young people, in universities, in communities, in the countries where the World Bank Group serves. And I must say, each time I do come away with a renewed sense of optimism that stays with me even in more difficult moments. And this is not because the challenges that we are discussing are not real, but I do have a sense that a younger generation is asking the right questions. Not only how do we grow, but what can technology do? What should it be used for? And these are precisely the questions that this foundation has been asking for over 30 years. The debate is now catching up, but it is catching up in a world that is also changing. So let me give one illustration of that change. 1.2 billion young people in developing economies will reach working age across the next 10 to 15 years. Current projections suggest that only around 400 million jobs will be created during this period, creating the prospect of 800 million young women and men without the prospect of a job. Now, as everyone present in this discussion here today knows, these are not numbers. These are human lives. Hundreds of millions of young people entering adulthood without access to dignified work, without a foothold in their economy, without a sense of a future that is something that they can economically participate in. And the implications of these current trends are particularly stark for Africa. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on our planet will be African. And that development alone needs to be part of our collective focus. Without jobs, without hope in the future, frustration will not remain local. It will feed into further fragility, further conflict, and political radicalization across our world. The institutions that were built to deal with these shared challenges, the United Nations, the Bretton Woods institutions, the multilateral system as a whole, are facing a new environment, an environment so well described by previous speakers. They are facing a world of geopolitical competition, of shrinking budgetary resources, and at times we face our own challenges internally regarding our own slowness and our own complexity. But my friends, let me say to you here this afternoon that the answer has to be reform. It has to be a focus on achieving more. Our answer cannot be retreat. Within the World Bank Group, we want to move faster. We want to achieve more, looking at solutions that can be common in the face of great common opportunities and challenges on our planet. And ultimately, our ability to achieve this will matter far more than how we measure the volumes of finance or internal metrics of change. Because for us, reform is about legitimacy. It is about respecting the dignity of those we serve. And therefore, we measure our efforts by whether we can serve the people that we want to empower, particularly the most vulnerable. The farmer who cannot access a market, the young woman who cannot get a loan to start her own business, the child whose clinic has no medicines. The moment we lose sight of that person, we lose sight of our own purpose. And that is why at the heart of our work is the recognition of the value of jobs. And this is because jobs are not just about income. They're about helping create a sense of dignity, helping to deepen participation in society, in belief in the future. And the encyclical of this week puts this with striking clarity. It recognizes that the human person, and I'm quoting, is an end, not a means. This is not only a moral statement, it is a development imperative. And then this leads to artificial intelligence, which will shape so much of our work in the next decade. And the concerns surrounding this technology are so legitimate and sit at the heart of the encyclical. In advanced economies, AI is already slowing hiring in services and white-collar sectors. But just as Pope Leo XIII looked at the factories of the Industrial Revolution and worried about the impact on human dignity, worried about workers who would be subject to forces they had not chosen and could not control, similarly, our Pope Leo XIV, is confronting a similar risk today of unprecedented technology, of power that could be left ungoverned and that could exclude billions of people from its benefits. But the picture is not only one of risk, particularly for developing countries, because there is another version of AI that does also deserve consideration. Small AI, locally delivered, running perhaps on a smartphone, adapted to local technologies and local realities and languages, and designed to extend, to build on human capability rather than replace it. So at farmers' cooperatives, we have seen women and men use their phones to scan a diseased crop and get answers and help. With a press of a button, a tap of a phone, they receive a diagnosis and a recommended treatment right there. There's no data center, no supercomputer, just a phone, local knowledge, and helping deliver a faster and better solution. But this will only become possible if developing countries are participants in shaping AI, not passive consumers. If the global conversation on AI is captured entirely by the logic of large systems, then those we serve in the developing world risk being left behind. And this again is where the encyclical speaks with particular force. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that development must concern each man and the whole man, that human dignity must be recognized. And that principle increasingly shapes how we think about digital development, because we recognize a great AI risk, not only of misuse, but of exclusion. Exclusion from connectivity, from skills, from governance, and from gains and improvements that AI could generate if used in different ways. So our response, therefore, will be one that is practical, that will be inclusive, about expanding access, and about looking at readiness and the use of AI in developing economies. And it's at the heart of a plan that we are currently developing, aiming to extend what we believe can be real benefits to a further 1 billion people by 2030. And this is why we are committed to deepening our dialogue with the Holy See, with strengthening our partnership with faith-based organizations around the world, recognizing shared values, looking at how we can make a difference. 35 years ago, we were reminded that markets without moral foundations do not produce justice. This week, we have been reminded that intelligence without conscience cannot be the basis for human progress. So while the World Bank cannot provide that conscience, we can choose to work alongside those who help us sustain it and to be held accountable to that standard. And that, President, is the partnership that I am here to affirm today. And I thank you again for the opportunity to participate in your discussion. Thank you.